Hi friends, I hope everyone's doing well. Last Saturday, I checked my schedule for the coming week and noticed it was very busy. Usually when I have weeks like this, I set aside around 30 minutes or less each day to create a collage. I keep the size of each collage small so it's doable. I understand it's not a practice that everyone can do when they're busy, but I like to show this practice to encourage you to create within a limited time period. I'll go over the supplies in each section. Also, since I sped up the video, I'll list the actual time it took me to create each collage in the beginning of each section. So let's get started. I typically make my own art journals and sketchbooks. I realized that I didn't have a small art journal made, so I brought out this pad of 5.5 by 8.5 30-pound mixed media paper to use for these collages. It's a bit larger than I would normally use for this practice, but it was fun to challenge myself to work in this size. Since I started filming this video last Saturday before the start of the busy week, I had extra time to paint a ground layer before collaging. Before I started painting, I marked a 1/2 inch from the binding as a loose guideline to keep the paint and collage within this area. I did this step for all 6 pages. As I mentioned, the pencil line was a loose guideline. I tried to keep the paint up to that line, but some of it went over it. If I decide to remove any of the collages from this pad, the left side will be cut along the pencil line for a straight edge. I came in with the red paint while the Celadon was a bit wet because I wanted the red to be diffused. You'll see shortly that I used a red oil pastel to add a few lines. By having the red paint diffused, helped the red pastel to stand out more. The papers I'll be using in these collages were pulled from a stack that was on my work table and in my leftover container. As usual, I pulled more papers than I will use. Other supplies I'll be using for all the collages are a glue stick and scissors. Keeping it simple is a key to creating within a time constraint. If you haven't watched one of these videos before, I like to use different combinations that I usually don't use, try out different compositions, and use this creative time to unwind from my day. It gives me time to play since I don't have a specific project that I need to create. At this point, I'm going to add music while you watch me finish this collage. I'll come back after the collage is finished. This will be the format for all the collage sections. I really like this collage. It has an interesting asymmetrical composition. I like the variety of different papers. I can see recreating it larger. Let's go on to the next collage. Since this session was on a Sunday, I had extra time to paint the ground. I had an idea for a ground technique that I've been meaning to try. The first step is to paint a solid ground of gray. I dried it with a hairdryer off camera before going on to the next step, which is adding washi tape to block out an uneven grid pattern. I wanted to make sure when the washi tape was pulled up, it didn't damage the painted layer underneath. Having the gray paint completely dried will help. Next, I'm using an old flat brush to paint the yellow oxide. It will have a horizontal, uneven dry brush technique across the page. I like using old brushes for this technique. The bristles are usually spread out a bit, so it's easy to paint a dry brush look. This technique turned out well. I'll plan on using it for other projects. At this point, I'll add music and come back when the collage is finished. I'm happy with the way this collage turned out. It was fun to create the gray and yellow grid pattern. I do admit it was a bit challenging to select papers to collage on top of it. I had to restrain myself from using only black and white papers. I think the aqua and purple papers worked well. Let's continue. Sunday night I had a few extra minutes, so I painted off white on the next 4 pages to prep for the remaining collages. When I'm working within a time constraint, I'd rather not start by looking at a white page. At least having some color on the page helps to avoid creative block. I could have painted different colors on each page as well. Those colors would have been helpful when pulling papers to use. Going into this collage, I had an idea to use the L composition, but make it not obvious. Also, I wanted to cut different geometric shapes than I usually use. Here's the finished L-shaped composition collage. I really like the different geometric shapes and the color combination. I'm happy with the way it turned out. On to the next one. I decided to pull out the light blue with orange striped paper that I didn't use for the previous collage and use it for this one. I really like the uneven stripes. If I remember correctly, this paper was a ghost print from a monoprinting session. I need to make a note to try to recreate it. I like the previous day's collage, so I want to create a similar one. This time, instead of a geometric L-shaped composition, I'll be creating a geometric horizontal composition. I want to explore different geometric shapes. I would like to create a collage that is a combination of this one and the previous one, but larger. It would give me more room to explore different geometric shapes and color combinations, also with a different color ground. Let's go on to the next one. I must admit I was extremely tired the night I made this collage. As you'll see soon, it's very simple, and that's okay. Not all of these collages can be complex. I'll wait and talk more about it at the end of this section. I do like the composition of this collage. It's a mix of diagonal and vertical. The thing that is lacking is the paper choices. If more pattern papers were used, I think I'd like it more. This is another collage that I'd like to create again, but with more pattern papers and larger. Let's go on to the final collage. This is another collage that I had a general idea beforehand. It will combine circular with straight edge shapes. Also, it will have a limited color palette. This collage was fun to create, a different design that I've used before in my art practice. I like the juxtaposition between the circular and straight edge shapes. I tend to shy away from light leaning designs, but I think it works for this collage. I would like to explore this style further. I hope you enjoyed this video. I encourage you to create even if you have limited time. It's not necessary to create every day if it doesn't fit into your schedule. I suggest having a small container that you put papers to use to save time. Also have small papers cut for substrates or a small art journal set aside for this practice. Thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this video. I hope to see you in the next one. Take care.